Okay, so we are on the terminal now. So what we are going to do is to first create a working directory and cd into it. So I'll say make the Nextflow, and then I'll cd into it. All right, so I'm doing this because I don't want to mix up files that I generate from different projects. All right. So in this directory, if you have, let's say, multiple Nextflow projects, then you can create another directory called genome assembly and then work in it. But we will keep it simple, just like this. All right, so let's do this. Now we have created our directory, so we are ready. So what we are going to do next is to download the example data. We will do this in Nextflow, but we need to get the download links for the files. So let's go to the ENA page. So we'll visit this page here. I'll leave the link to this page in the description box. All right. Now, when you are here, come to this side. Okay, where we have this. You see this session ID here. You may not find it there. It will not be there. Let me just make it clear. All right. But that's what we need. So I want you to check the description box. You will find that session ID, and then you can paste it in this side here. Let me just do it again. So we have two entry widgets here. So use this one, the one with enter session, the second one. So copy the session ID in the description box and then paste it there. And then after that, you can click on view. So this will send you to the page which has the files. All right. I'll also leave the link to this page in the description box. So you don't necessarily need to search for it. You can use that page, that link, and visit this page. All right. Okay. So this data is Mycobacterium ostrans isolate, a bacteria genome isolate. And so I use this file a lot, this data a lot, because it's the file sizes are very small. All right. So we have paired end reads, and there's also an nanopore data, but we are using the Illumina paired end reads, so that's what we will use. All right. So when we are here, just scroll down to this side. We are going to download the data here. So we have paired end reads, so we will use read 1, read 2 for our genome assembly. So we have them here. Because I'm going to download on the terminal using Nextflow, I will need to get the download links. All right. So I'll first with the read 1, which is this one. So I'll right click and I'll copy the link. And then I'll move to the terminal to download. So I'll move to the terminal. And then when I'm here, I'll create a text file which will contain the download links. So I'll use nano to open a text file. So I'll say nano links.txt. And then I'll open it. You can use any other text, that's fine. Now I am going to paste my link there. This is the first one. I'll move to the next line, and then I'll also go and copy the read 2, which is here. So I'll right click and then I'll copy the link. All right, and I'll move to the text file again. I'll paste it. I'll exit and I'll save changes. I'll still put these links in the description box. Now you can do an ls, you find it there. You can also do a cut just to see the content. That's fine. So now we are going to write a Nextflow script that will download the files for us. And so the Nextflow script will take the file, this file which has the links as input, and then process that for us. All right. Now, before we write the Nextflow script, I want you to take a note of your working directory. So do a pwd and then take note of whatever that has been displayed for us. So we will need this information when we start writing the script. So do that first. All right. Now we are going to write the Nextflow script to download the example data. So we have the links here, and we also have the file. So the links to the data are in this file, this text file, which I showed. And so we will open a file and then put in the Nextflow commands and then get the read for us. So let's do this. So let's open our script now. So I'll say nano pipeline.nf, and then I'll open it. You can use any text editor. That's also fine. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Nextflow 101. So we will start by defining some parameters. So I'll start with this one. So I'll say params dot link file equals, and I'll specify the file, the file which has the download links. All right. So I'll bring my quotes and I'll say /home/ Obna / Nextflow / links.txt. That is the file. So we have that here. All right. Now let's do this. Let's move to the next line. In the next line, we will say params.fastqdar because we will specify a directory in our working directory. So I'll say /home/ Kobina / Nextflow / fastq, and then I'll bring my double quotes. Now this directory does not exist. All right, that's fine. We are going to create it later on, but we need to define it here. So this directory is where the downloaded files will be stored. All right, so we are going to supply Nextflow with this information also so that the necessary steps are done for us. So for now, these are the information that we need. This is the information that we need. So let's proceed. Now let's scroll down. We are going to now write a command, or let's say commands that will do the download for us. All right, so with Nextflow, if you're going to perform an activity, you need to put it in a process. So because we are going to download files, we will define our task as download. So I'll say process download. And I'll bring a curly brackets to open and then one to end. So in between is where we will place our commands. So take note of that. In between is where we will place our commands. The commands will work together to get us our files. That's what we need. So take note of that. Now let's proceed. So this is what we are going to do next. We will also define a directory. So I'll say publish there. I bring a bracket. I bring a double quotes. I bring a $. I bring a curly bracket again, and I'll say params.fastq. Remember we defined that earlier on. Then I'll bring my curly brackets again, the closing one, and I'll bring my double quotes. All right. I'll bring a comma. Don't worry, I'll explain everything. So comma, and then I'll say mode, colon, and I'll say copy. And then I'll bring my brackets again, the closing one. Now this publish that here, this is used to set a directory where output files are stored. Nextflow by default has a working directory. Let me just rephrase it. Nextflow has a default directory that it stores outputs. And so what we are doing is to tell Nextflow that this is the directory that we want, and this is the directory that we want all the outputs to be saved or stored in. That is where the publish dar comes in. All right. Now we define the param.fastq dar here and we specify. So that means that we want the output files to be saved or stored in this directory called fastq in our working directory. So what will happen is that Nextflow will create this directory and then it will store the output files in that directory. So the output files here are the reads, the file that we down, the fastq files. Now the mode here, with this publish dar, we have different modes. So the copy here means that we want a copy of the files or of the outputs to be stored in this directory. There are different modes. One of the modes is also move. So move means we will move the file. I made mention that Nextflow has a default directory where it stores output. So the copy here means that the files will be copied from that default directory into our directory of choice, which is fastq dar, or fastq here. This is the directory of our choice. So Nextflow will make a copy of the output files and place them here for us. All right. You can choose to use move, but that's not recommended until you are done with your analysis. All right. So I will still use copy for now, but maybe if you don't have enough space, then you can choose to use move, but just be careful that always try to use the copy mode. All right. So this is the publish dar. Now let's proceed. Let's scroll down to the next line. So in the next line, we'll type input colon, input colon. And then the next line, paste space and we say path and we say link file. Now the input here is used to define the input, what we are going to place in the process. This is the process, this is the task, but the task requires an input. All right. So the input is going to be our file, the links.txt, but we defined that using param.link file. But in the process, we also need to do additional definition. This is where the input path and link file comes in. So the link file here is a placeholder for the inputs, the incoming information. That's the input. So it's a placeholder. So it's just like, let's say you are in a building, let's say a security building, and you have IDs. All right. So the IDs are supposed to be given to people who come into the building. All right. So the IDs are a placeholder. And so if someone comes and is assigned that ID, then wherever that ID is made mention of, it refers to that person. So just take it along that line. That is a placeholder for the inputs. So we are defining it here. So in our scripts, in our process, all right, whenever we want to process that input, then we will just make mention of it using this name here. And take note that this name here is different from params.link file in terms of the names. All right, so there are two different entities, even though they are linking the same file. They are two different entities, so don't mix them up. Just follow me, follow what I'm doing here. You can also use a different name. It's up to you. It's just a placeholder, so you can use any name at all. That's what you should know, whether it's file or whatever. But I'll use link file here. Now let's move to the next line. The next line, we will define our outputs. So it's also a colon space, we say path, and this time we say double quotes star double quotes. All right, so the path and star here indicate that we want all the outputs. So star is everything, so we want everything, all the outputs. That's where the star comes in. Now we want all the outputs, but we also want to make reference to the outputs. We want to display the outputs. So I'll bring this other comma. So I'll say comma, and I'll say emit colon, and I'll say output file. So the emit word here, or command or functional utility, whatever you want to call it. So this emit makes the output file accessible outside this one here, this download process here. All right, so that's why it's the emit. And it also makes it possible for us to make reference to that file or the output file. All right, so in the process, when we want to make reference to this particular file, or let's say this particular output, because we have the output here, then we can use the name. So this is a name, a label for the output file. So yeah, so let me just make it clear. So this is a name that is given to the output, so that whenever we want to make reference to that output, we just need to specify just this name here and it will be fine. So it's also a placeholder for the output. All right, so that's what you need to know. So that is it for the output. Now let's scroll down to the next line, and here we define our script. So I'll say script colon, and then the next line I'll bring 3 double quotes, and then another 3 double quotes again. So we have 2 of them, this and this, and in between is where we place in our scripts. I repeat, in between is where we place in our scripts. Okay, so let's do this. So we are now going to issue the command to download the file for us, or the files. We have 2 files, by the way. So the command is going to be this cat $link file. Remember our link file here, the placeholder. So the link file here is the input. So whatever input we place there, this is it. So the dollar here is like the value, the actual value. So cat $link, cat is used to display contents in text files. I bring this pipe. Now say x-axis -i -p2. I'll say wget. I bring a quote, 2 curly brackets, 1 open, 1 closing, and that is it. Now this xas command, I have covered it in detail in another tutorial. So if you don't understand this, just watch that tutorial. So basically what this command is doing is to download the files for me. All right. So if let's say you have 10 download links, 20, whatever, all the more reason why I have to use the S-ax. So the S-ax allows us to process multiple files. So let me just put it that way. Simple. It's simple. All right. But still watch that video on X-ax if you have any challenge. All right. The link to that video is in the description box. All right. So just make sure to do. For now, we are using it to download our file. That's all that you need to know. All right. Now let's proceed. So this becomes our final command for downloading the files. All right. Now let's do this. Let's make sure we have everything. We need to also have our curly brackets. A process begins with a curly bracket and ends with a curly bracket, which is the other one here. So make sure to have both of them. Again, you can still download the materials if you want. The link is in the description box. So the scripts are already prepared. You can still download them and then use them or compare with what we are doing now. So let's continue. So this becomes our command for downloading, and we still need to do an additional thing. With the Nextflow version, this version, we also need to specify the workflow. All right, so this will be used to call the processes that you want to run. So we will define that here. So for that, we will say workflow. We also bring a curly bracket opening and then ending. And then in between becomes our working area, sort of. So now with Nextflow, tasks are referred to as process. We've done that here. Now we are performing a task. We are downloading some files, so it's a task. So that's why I have defined our process. But this download requires an input. That is our links.txt file here. All right. So with Nextflow, we supply inputs to processes by using what we call channels. All right. So channels allow us to transfer, allow us to communicate information, allow us to supply information to processes. And so I have some tutorials on channels, so I'll still leave those tutorials in the description box if you are interested to watch that. So basically, this is how I will define channels for now. All right, so we need to create a channel for our input file, and then we supply it to the process download. So the input file, will name it link_ch, and I'll say equals, and I'll say channel dot from path, and then I'll specify my link file. So this time around, we are using this one, params.link file. This one here is what we are going to use here. So I'll say params.link file, and then I will close the brackets. All right. So after defining our channel, we can now call our process download and then supply it with our input, which is now in this channel. Yeah, so I'll call it. So I'll say download, and then I'll do this. I'll bring my brackets and I'll say link_ch like this. And then I'll come to the next line. Now, this command can be run, but we also want to know what's happening in terms of the outputs. So I'll indicate another command that will display the output for us. In this case, our files. All right, so I'll say download.out.outputs file.view. Remember, we also specify this here. Okay, so the emit output. So now we can make reference to that file or those files here. And that is what we have done here. Now that is it. So let's just make sure we have everything. Let's check that we have our curly brackets also here. That's fine. So we can now proceed. So that is it basically. All right. So now we can exit and save changes, and then we run Nextflow. So let's exit and save changes. Okay, that is done. So now we can proceed. So that's what we are going to do. Let's do an ls first to check the file. We can also do a cat to display the scripts, and now we can run it. All right, let's just do it again. So now we can run it. So I'll say Nextflow, and I'll say run, and I'll specify the pipeline. So this is it. So let's execute this command. All right, so Nextflow has started this work. So let's wait for everything to get done for us. Okay, the files have been downloaded. So let's take a look at them. So let's do an ls. We are going to find a directory called fastkill. All right, so let's ls into it. We are going to find our files here. All right, so this is how we download it. So that's fine.